Puro pala tayo nandito sa sa UAE. Sir, ilan po tayo sa class?
5 kayo. 4 kayo, ma'am. Sir.
Opo. Sir, may nagtatanong kasi, kailan po ang next batch?
Ng TCP?
Opo.
Next sem po, pwede.
Okay. Sige po.
Pero since tayo naman kasi is year-round, pwede naman na silang mag-join if they want.
Pwede silang humabol?
Anytime. Isang pangalawang subject pa lang naman natin to, di ba?
Opo. Sige po nga, sir. I-forward ko po yung number nila sa'yo for
Year-round naman,
requirements.
para lang. Pero, base kasi natin, sir, kung kailan tawag doon, yung board exam, syempre, we need to apply pa sa sa mga...
Yes po. Sige po, sir, i-suggest kasi mga friends ko kasi nalaman nila nagte-take ako nito, mga nainggit na.
Oo.
Sabi ko, mga inggitera kayo. But yes
kasi
po.
kung talagang gusto kasi nilang tawag doon, maging licensed teacher, pwede
Oo
naman
po.
kasi, oo. Kahit hindi sila,
Totoo po yan. Sige sir, i-suggest ko po yung number ninyo.
para habang hindi pa tayo nakakalayo.
Oo, totoo po yan.
Kasi mas
Sige po.
mahirap pag malayo na kaysa,
Sige po.
ang ginagawa natin, pa natin, tawag doon, kumbaga sinisingit na lang kasi, ma-masters na kayo, di ba?
Opo, yes.
Nagma-masters na pala.
Totoo po.
Parang killing bird.
Two birds with one stone. Sir Jomar, si Sir Jomar, kasama po kayo din sa sa MAED?
Yes, sir.
Sa CDDS po siya. Kayo kasi ELM po.
Opo.
Yes, oo. Si Sir Jomar kasi ang pinakamalapit sa teaching profession kasi siya sa science. Siya.
Opo.
At saka ikaw pala kasi English.
Ikaw sir, hindi ka nag-a-apply for Sir Eric sa Golden Visa?
Planning, pero syempre kailangan ko pang kailangan kasi mga experience mo pa kasi eh.
Si Sir yung writer natin si Sir Ryan, Golden Visa holder na siya.
Oo, hindi na sila masyadong ngayon, hindi na masyadong.
Oo nga po, hindi sila mahigpit.
Kasi yung iba rin na mga kasama ko yung mga nagtuturo na dito ng university, pero yung mga matatagal na,
opo.
Naka-golden visa na rin sila.
Po
at saka
sila.
din sila kasi, tsaka marami na kasi silang mga na-publish, parang gano'n. Pag-asset daw sila ng community. So, kailangan mo ng tawag doon, sa'yo, magno-nominate, gano'n, referencing din.
Opo. Ano natin yan, sir? Natin.
Pero sa ngayon kasi, may mga ibang plans din kasi ako for other country, kaya...
Opo. US ba, sir?
Parang ang sayang din kasi kung yung 10 years, tapos after 2 years, aalis ka. Diba? Parang din.
Totoo po yan.
Baka magkaroon later on ng problema, hindi ka makavisa sa other country.
Sabi nila parang pwede naman din bumalik-balik at least.
Pero syempre, pag nakavisa ka dito, you need to come back before 6 months.
Yes.
Para hindi siya mag-lapse ang visa mo. Yun naman ang policy sa visas kasi even US visa din. So halimbawa, if plan ko nang mag-stay na sa New Zealand, for example, hindi na ako babalik-balik dito. Parang ganun ba? So sayang yung 10 years visa.
ING ba ang balak niyo, sir?
Gusto ko dun ang retirement. Kasi gusto ko yung parang ang peaceful na you are dealing with environment lang. Diba? Parang ganun. Pero marami ring marami ring opportunities sa university if you want to teach as a professor sa university.
Baka super high naman ang requirements nila, sir.
No, pareho lang din sa mga sa Australia, Canada. Kasi isa lang naman ang may-ari, ano yan, di ba? Kay, din naman, kay Queen Elizabeth din naman. So same,
Opo.
ang Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK.
Maganda yan, sir.
Hindi ko lang kasi pinakapangarap pumunta ng noon, US, kaya nakakatakot sa US maging teacher. Baka mamaya bariling ka rin doon. Diba?
Oo nga, no, sir. Grabe ang mga ano doon.
Yun ang hindi ma-solve sa US ngayon, yung mga barilan.
Opo.
Pinapatay ka na lang basta-basta. Grabe. Sa Canada naman, maganda naman daw doon, especially for family, kasi di ba maraming benefits sa mga anak nyo, free
Opo.
ang education. Kaya lang, mostly na mga kaibigan ko, if not all, na pumunta doon, parang ang sad din ng life kasi nasa ano sila, nasa far-flung area. Doon din daw nilalagay ang mga Pilipino. So parang once in a blue moon lang sila nakakapunta sa main city, sa may civilized area. So
Opo,
nasa
kasi
bundok-bundok daw sila.
parang dito desierto sa kanila, parang yelo.
Oo, kung halimbawa dito sa UAE, parang okay pa nga yung nasa Al-Ain kasi marami kang kapitbahay, marami kang doon daw sa Canada pag wala, nasa ka lang, bulubunduking area ka, malayo ka sa mga ganon. So,
Opo.
pag ikaw ay social animal, yung hindi ka nabubuhay na wala kang nakikitang crowd araw-araw, di ba?
Problema pala. Walang socialization pa po.
Oo, ganun lahat ng mga kaibigan kong nasa Canada ngayon. Nasa sila. Bihira lang silang makitang nasa city. Nasa bahay lang sila, work, bahay, work, ganun lang.
Yes po.
Okay, so ilan na tayo sa group? 4. Ilan? So,
Yes
nandito
po.
na si Sir Jeffrey. Yan. So for today lang naman, we will have assess evaluation about the principles and theories of learning that we discuss. So we will have today part 1 of it. Yung muna tayo, principles lang muna. We will separate the theories para mas mas high ang retention ninyo with regards to mga personalities, icons, pag hindi halo-halo. So, the items here are purely sa principles of learning and principles of motivation. Okay? Then siguro tomorrow, we will have the part 2. Yun naman ay theories of learning and motivation naman tayo. Okay? So, we have the drill part 1. Okay, so let's start. The process by which an individual acquires the social and cultural heritage of the society where he belongs. Socialization, integration, internalization, or acquisition. So if you try to look at the terms, parang pare-pareho lang din sila, di ba? Because when you integrate, it means you are combining. You are combining 2 or more things to make something effective. Parang gano'n, integration. So in the question, you are acquiring also. And then internalization, internalize, this is the action of accepting or absorbing an idea, opinion, belief in your community so that it becomes part of your system, becomes part of your character. Whereas in acquisition, same din, acquire. The act of obtaining, learning or developing a skill, habit, or inquiry from your community, from your environment. Same is true with socialization. So the process now by which an individual acquires both the social and cultural heritage, syempre, that is what we call as socialization is the best term for it. Kasi ang clue nyo na lang doon is social. Social and cultural heritage. So, socialization. Kasi sa social studies minsan, ginagamit ang mga terms na ito, yung mga acculturation, integration, internalization. But kumbaga, naka-umbrella sila sa word na socialization. Okay? So this is socialization. This is a part of learning. Principle of learning. Yun naman yung gawain ng mga learners natin, to socialize with fellow learners, with the community at large, and so on. Visual imagery helps people store information in their memory more effectively, which is one teaching implication of this principle. A, you will not object when your students daydream in class. B, instruct students to take notes while you lecture. C, encourage your students to imagine the characters and situations when reading a story. D, tell them to read more illustrated comics. Saan kaya dyan? Visual imagery daw helps people store information in their memory. C, yung letter A kasi, you will not object when your class, it's negative na siya. So it's an X. Okay? Instruct student to take notes. This is a positive answer, pero taking down notes is different from yung visual imagery. Kumbaga, psychomotor ito, yung isa naman spatial, kumbaga. And then yung letter D, pwede din kasi comics. But the best answer is letter C.
C.
You need to encourage your students to imagine the characters and situations when reading a story. Diba ganoon naman? Kung hindi available ang visual aid mo when you are teaching history, sabihin mo na sila, imagine. Encourage them to imagine the characters, the places, the situations when reading a story, so that they will appreciate more and they will comprehend and synthesize what the story is about. Okay, so that is visual imagery. Kasi kung kwento ka lang ng kwento, kwento lang ng kwento, wala lang. Binabasa lang nila yung kwento, mas mahirapan sila. Hindi nila makukuha yung ibig sabihin. Especially kung yung story mo ay maraming figurative examples. May mga twist pa doon, di ba? Yung plot niya ay kakaiba. So, you need to apply visual imagery. Usually naman sa mga stories, di ba? Ang daming descriptions. Dinidescribe yung setting para ipasok ng mga learners, ng readers, ang sarili nila doon sa story. Okay? That is visual imagery. That's one teaching principle. Third, teacher Cleopatra always checks on entry knowledge and skills before she proceeds to her new lesson. On which principle is teacher Cleopatra's practice grounded? So remember the principles of learning. Saan kaya dito? A, effective teaching proceeds from concrete to abstract. So from simple to complex, parang ganun. Attention is essential for learning. Medyo hindi siya related. Learning increases when the lesson is relevant. And D, new learning builds on previous learning. So A, B, C, and D are all principles of learning. But saan kaya dyan ang example si Teacher Cleopatra? Take note, di ba, when you start your class, diba sabi natin sa lesson plan, ang very first part ng lesson plan is after checking the attendance, that's preparation. Next, under it, we have motivation and review. Kung new lesson siya, syempre you need to motivate them. Kung continuation lesson, kailangan reviewin mo sila. Di ba meron yung time sasabi ng teacher, okay class, let's recall our lesson yesterday. Or yesterday, we were discussing about, and today, let's continue this one and this one. Ganon. So, that is letter D. New learning builds on previous learning. Kasi she's checking on entry knowledge, kung ano nang natutunan nila. Nag-review muna sila. Anong tawag? Recap. Mag-recap sila. Kasi minsan, kailangan mo ding i-connect yung lesson mo kahapon sa lesson mo today. Para na, especially kung ano yon, kung magkakadugtong yun hanggang pataas, kailangan makuha nila yung connection. So, it's just up for the teacher to check on entry knowledge and skills before she proceeds to her new lesson. Parang dinadiagnose muna niya sila din. Okay, that's number 3. 4, he is known as the father of modern IQ tests. Take note ha, modern IQ test. Si Louis Terman, Lawrence Kohlberg, Eric Erickson, and Raymond Cattell. So far, hindi pa natin nami-meet si Terman and Cattell. Meron na si Terman. Na-meet natin siya sa ating tawag doon. Nung pag-aral natin ang IQ, yung mga moron, idiots, mga ganon. Okay. Si Lawrence Kohlberg, sino na siya? Sa may sa principle sa human development. Ano ang pioneering concept ni Lawrence Kohlberg? Yung stages of moral development, di ba? Yung social order, law and order, universal moral principle. Si naman, Eric Erickson, siya ay sa psychosocial development. Yung 8 stages, if you can remember. Si Raymond Cattell, I think siya sa personality test. Personality test. So the correct answer is Louis Terman. Louis Terman is the father of modern IQ test. Ha? Take note, modern. Kasi ang original na IQ test, si Alfred Binet. Si Alfred Binet ang first practical IQ test. Kaya minsan may mga questions na he is known as the father of IQ test. Pag father of IQ test lang, si Alfred Binet or Binet. Alfred Binet. Kaya lang, si Louis Terman, he did a further study on Alfred Binet's test or scale. So, ginamit niya yung Stanford Binet scale. Kaya siya ngayon ang father of modern IQ test. Yun kasi ang ginagamit sa mga IQ test yung ngayon, yung Stanford-Binet test or scale. Okay, so I repeat, kung ang father of IQ test si ano yan, si Alfred Binet. Next. My doesn't enjoy writing but can't escape from it. She has to finish it in order to graduate. Catherine has always liked to write. She really likes to become a better writer because she wants to be a journalist someday. Who is likely to be more focused on the writing activity and why? A. Catherine, because she is intrinsically motivated. My, because she is extrinsically motivated. C, both because they are both motivated anyway. And D, cannot be determined motivation because motivation fluctuates. So dito na papasok yung motivation. Ano yung two types of motivation natin last time? Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So when we speak of intrinsic motivation, in means anong ibig sabihin? It is fueled by self or your own goal, own ambitions. Yun yung intrinsic. Pag extrinsic naman, X means outside. This is by anticipation or expectation of some kind of return or payoff from external source, like rewards, praises, earning high grades from your teachers, something like that. So yun yung extrinsic and intrinsically motivated. So who is likely to be more focused on the writing activity and why? It's A. Catherine, because she is intrinsically motivated. Kasi if you try to read the question, parang ang simple lang naman. Siyempre, yung isa negative, yung isa positive. But the choices kasi, kailangan mo ring malaman yung pagkakaiba. So, dyan papasok yung motivation. So, kailangan ma-recall mo ano kayang intrinsic, ano kayang ibig sabihin ng extrinsic. Yun. Okay? So, balik ka sa base. Balik ka sa definition ng intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Number 6. Which of the following principles of learning applies to considering students' age in presenting certain content and cognitive processes? A. Principle of readiness. Principle of learning by doing. Principle of presenting challenging tasks. And D. Principle of learning aided by formulating and asking questions. Answer. Ayun siya, oo. Considering, you need to consider the age of your learner in presenting a certain content. So, it means you need to make sure that they are ready. Principle of readiness. Kanino na ba yung law of readiness sa theories of learning kay Edward Thorndike sa connectionism. Diba sa kanya yung law of use and misuse, law of effect, law of readiness, yan. Okay? Kay Edward Thorndike. Sa principles of learning naman, the readiness affects or affects motivation and desire to learn. The principle of readiness is related to the learner's stage of development. Kay Havighurst, di ba? Sabi niya, yung sa developmental task, ng each stage ng development ng learner, may mga tasks silang dapat ma-accomplish. That if they are not ready, hindi nila gagawin. Kasi hindi pa nga nila kaya. So, same is true with learning. Kaya, let's say for example, teacher ka ng English, for example, ng let's say high school, grade 7, yung first grade sa high school. Tapos tuturuan mo na sila ng tawag doon, yung higher English na para dapat sa grade 10, grade 12. Hindi pa sila ready noon kasi nasa basic pa lang sila ng kumbaga high school English. Yung mga simple essays, mga ganun lang. Kasi meron namang stages talaga ng pagtuturo. Das example sa math, kasi ako particular sa mga topics sa English. Sa math, for example, hindi mo pa naman pwedeng turuan sila ng calculus, trigonometry, kung nasa grade 6 or 7 pa lang sila. Yung basic pwede mo nang ituro. Pero kung wala sila prerequisite na algebra and basic arithmetic, hindi nila makukuha yung kahit magturo ka na magturo araw-araw. Okay? Because learning or readiness affects learning motivation and desire to learn. A burglary occurred in Richie's neighborhood. Since then, Richie is very careful of locking their doors and closing windows. What theory best explains Richie's behavior? A. Observational learning. B. Self-regulated learning. C. Imitation learning. Or D. Vicarious learning. If you can recall our example before, yung mga sinasabi kong napapanood ko sa TikTok, yung mga Chinese na mga bata, na tinuturuan sila natututo yung mga bata dahil pinapakitaan sila ng mga examples na pag may mali, pinapalo, mga ganun. So, natatakot yung batang gawin. So, in that case, natututo na siya sa behavior based sa nakikita lang niya. Okay? So, the answer is letter. Ano to? Kay sinong sa theory natin? Observational learning. Yung letter A ang theory. Kay Albert Bandura. Vicarious learning. Di ba sa observational learning theory ni Bandura, yung modeling, minomodel mo siya, yung bubudal niya. Sa kanyang theory, meron siyang dalawa, self-regulated learning and vicarious learning. Yung imitation and observational, yun yung mga theories talaga. Sila yung umbrella. Okay? When we say vicarious, learning is acquired from observing the consequences of others' behavior. Yung self-regulated naman, the learner or individual observe, assess, judge their own behavior against their own sarili nila standards. And then subsequently, sila na rin ang nagpapanis sa sarili nila, sila na rin ang nag-reward sa sarili nila. So that is self-regulated learning. Okay? So I repeat, itong number 7, sa principle of learning, sa theory of learning, ano siya, under sa kay Albert Bandura. Letter D, vicarious learning. High levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, inhibits learning. So kung sobrang stress ka, hindi ka nakaka-apekto sa pag-aaral. sa pagkatuto. So what is an implication of this in teaching learning process? Teacher should be non-threatening in her ways, avoid quizzes and tests, never raise your voice. D, don't give assignments. Siyempre, yung B and D, hindi naman pwedeng hindi gawin. Na hindi ka magbigay ng quizzes and tests kasi nakaka-stress naman talaga yan. Pero those are assessments.
Yeah.
Yung don't give assignment every day. Yun ang mali. Or don't give assignment always. Kasi ang assignment naman, dapat binibigay lang naman yan once or twice a week. Hindi naman yung, kaya minsan, ang mga assignments, dapat nag-uusap-usap ang mga teachers. Kasi, let's say, 8 ang subjects ng mga bata. Tapos, lahat sabay-sabay may assignment. Yan daming gagawin ng bata. Diba? So, kailangan mag-usap. Alternate sila. Like, wag kang magbigay ng assignment yan kasi may assignment ako. Ganun dapat. Para hindi naman masyadong, meron nga noong, memo na wag nang magbigay ng assignment. Pero hindi naman pwedeng ganun.
Parents ang gumagawa ng assignment. May co-teacher ako ngayon, siya gumagawa ng assignment ng anak niya.
Ganun naman tayo mga stage parents naman talaga. Kaya dapat kung ang taas ng grade ng parent. Pero kung ikaw ang teacher, malalaman mo naman kaagad-agad na hindi ang anak ang gumawa ng assignment. Pag mga kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, okay pa. Na makikita mo na ang gaganda ng mga assignment. Pero kung sa elementary and high school, makikilala mo naman yung mga learners mo eh. Kung let's say sa English, magpa-assignment ka ng essay, tapos biglang ang ganda ng gawa ng bata, ang ganda ng thought, ang ganda ng organization.
Alam na.
Hindi naman na ginagawa usually, di ba? Alam mo na. It's either nangopya, pinagawa, di ba? Or copy-paste. Makikilala mo naman talaga ang caliber ng mga estudyante mo. First month ng school year, makikilala mo na sila. So, ako sinasabi ko na yan sa high school kasi nung I introduce elective subjects sa Far Eastern. Let's say statistics, research, ganon, kahit once a week lang. Kasi nakikita ko yung changes ng curriculum nasabi ko nako, in the future magiging ano ang mga ito. Saka sa preparation nila din sa college. Research 1, Research 2, ano pa ba? Journalism, environmental science, mga ganon. Calculus. Ini-insert namin yan na mga elective subjects. Nagturo din ako ng journalism, especially yung school papering. So makikita mo naman sa mga bata na hindi nila gawa yung mga pinagpagawa sa iba. So, mabibigla ka na lang pero meron naman talaga yung mga bata. And on the second time na magpagawa ka ng output, kung ganun pa din, and then pag nagpa-exam ka, actual, nagpa-essay ka, at ganun ang kanyang organization ng thoughts, ganun talaga siya, magaling talaga siya. Pero meron yung first kasi na masusurprise ka eh. Okay? So here, stress hormone. So hindi ka pwedeng magsagot ng B and C, D, kasi those are usual naman talagang ibinibigay sa school. It's either letter C and or A. Never raise your voice. Paano kung malakas lang talaga ng modulation ng boses mo sa classroom, di ba? O di super stressed na ang bata. So letter A is more general. Teachers should be non-threatening in her ways. Para naman di masyadong matakot yung mga bata. Ito yung mga cases ng mga terror teachers, mga ganun. which violates this brain-based principle of teaching and learning. Each child's brain is unique and vastly different from one another. A, giving ample opportunity for a pupil to explore even if the classes creates noise. Making a left-handed pupil write with his right hand, as this is better. Allowing open dialogue among students. Employing multiple intelligences, teaching approaches. So very obvious. Ang hindi lang pwedeng gawin dyan is letter B. Kasi wag mong pilitin kung talagang left-handed yung bata. Wag mong pukpukin yung kamay niya na mag-right hand kung talagang left-handed siya. Kasi ganoon naman tayo yung brain-based principle. Meron kasi yung kung may mga parts ng brain kung saan yung dominant, doon ka talaga. Kaya kung left-handed ka, may mga ibang skills ka na wala sa mga right-handed. So, hindi mo pwedeng ipilit, kumbaga, na pag ganon. Kasi each child's brain is unique. Kasi yung letter A, giving ample opportunity for a pupil to explore even if the class creates noise. Pwede pa rin naman. Okay? So, letter B, hindi pwedeng i-force ang bata na magsulat using the right hand or left hand. Next number. Some learners like to find specific and concrete answers. O, dito tayo sa type of learners. What kind of learners are they? Accommodators, assimilators, convergers, or divergers? Ito natin masyadong kinuha last time. This will fall under kay cold learning styles. Nandun sa PowerPoint. Cold learning styles. Okay, so when we say accommodators, they rely on concrete experience and active experimentation. Accommodators, sila yung mga active sa experiment. Natututo sila mainly on experimentation. Si assimilator naman, abstract, conceptualizing. Reflective ang kanilang observation. Si convergers, abstract conceptualizing din, but they need experimenting. So pag ganyan, sila yung mga binibigyan ng mga teacher ng activities na kailangan nila ng specific answer kaagad. Gusto nila ng agarang answer. Kaya C ang sagot dyan. Si divergers naman, yung mahilig sila sa groupings. They learn better sa group. Okay? Gusto rin nila concrete experience. Okay? So, yun ang mga pagkakaiba ng mga learners na yan. So, letter C, convergers. I repeat, si converger, gusto nila kaagad ang specific and concrete answers. Pero gusto rin naman nila ng experimenting. Si divergers, sa grouping sila mas natututo. Sila accommodators, experimentation, active experimentation. Si assimilators naman, reflective observation. So, convergers. How would you help a student who is intelligent but is underachieving in class? O merong ganyan, matatalino pero underachiever sila. Pag exam na, bumabagsak. Pero alam mo talaga na matalino yung bata. So as a teacher, how would you help the student? A, provide challenging activities which he or she can accomplish. Kasi minsan may mga batang hindi na sa challenge. Hindi na-inspire. Dito sa UAE, maraming ganyan noong nasa Sharjah lalo kasi 'di ba sabi ko separate ang boys and girls. Isang factor din siguro 'yun kung bakit na hindi sila sa challenge. Yung mga boys walang gana sa pag-aaral kasi hindi sila sa challenge. Kasi lahat ng matalino nasa girls. Wala kumbagang nagiging leader doon na pero kung nasa boys block yung valedictorian, sa challenge sila. Parang ganun. Na-observe ko yan sa mga schools dito. Kaya minsan, naku, meron yung batch na walang-wala yung mga boys kasi yung lahat ng top achievers nasa girls block. So makikita mo doon na wala silang challenge kasi wala man lang kasi nag-lead doon na na magaling kumbaga. Okay? B, recognize his talents by asking him or her to help other students with their work. C, identify the immediate causes of difficulties to cause his or being an underachiever. Allow him or her to work with the slow learner group to cope with the academic needs of the lesson. Saan kaya yan ang best answer?
Okay.
Kasi pwede naman lahat. Pero saan dyan ang... Now, if you try to read that one, all the options are correct. Pero ang question, how would you help? Kung how ang question, ano ang ibig sabihin yan? How? Ibig sabihin, magbibigay ka ng procedure. So, alin dyan ang uunahin? Yun ang point. Kung how would you help a student? Kasi tama lahat yan eh. Saan dyan ang uunahin? Letter
C.
C. You need to identify first the immediate causes of difficulties that cause his or her being an underachiever. Okay? Identify mo muna kung anong problema niya, ano yung cause, bakit siya may mga difficulties. Okay? And then, right there and then, after identifying, you can provide challenging activities. Depende kung anong ma-discover mong difficulty niya. Okay? Kung magsasabihin niyang hindi siya na sa challenge, allow him to work with the slow learner para matulungan naman niya yung mga may mga ganun yung mga maagang nag-aral, kumbaga. Yung, let's say, especially sa mga grade 1, grade 2. May mga bata kasi na 2 years old pa lang pumapasok na.
Yes
So,
po.
pagdating ng kindergarten, sisiw na lang sa kanila yung mga writing, yung mga phonetic sounds, nursery rhymes, memorize na nilang lahat. Kasi hindi pa naman siya pwedeng mag-grade 1. Kailangan hintayin niya kasi may age bracket din naman. May age requirement, di ba? Kaya dapat kasi yung mga ganyan, yung mga nursery, hindi pa tinuturuan yan. Socialization dapat lang yun. Socialization, play, activities, ganun lang. Huwag mo nang magturo ng ABC, writing, huwag muna. Sa KG1, yung preschool, sa atin kasi ang daming stage 2, 3, may mga preschool pa, tapos KG1, KG2, mga ganon. So, dapat din unti-untiin para hindi maging ang mga bata. Madami akong na-meet na maganyang mga bata. Nung KG, ang gagaling nila. Nung elementary na, biglang wala. Wala na sila. Nawalan ng challenge. Nawalan ng, kumbaga, yung tawag doon, yung boost nila hindi na-maintain. Mrs. Duterte always makes sure that her preschool classroom is well organized and clean. She puts up interesting and colorful visuals on the bulletin board. What principle of motivation was applied? Principle of motivation naman tayo. So, incentives motivate learning. Correct. That's a motivation principle. Internal motivation is longer lasting and more self-directive than external motivation. Motivation is enhanced by the way in which instructional material is organized. The environment can be used to focus the student's attention on what needs to be learned. So if you try to analyze the options, i-cross mo na si A and B. Si B kasi internal motivation sa self yan. Kasi ang sa problem is colorful visuals, bulletin boards, yan. Namomotivate ang mga bata daw na mag-aral. Kasi well-organized and clean ang classroom. Incentives, wala namang incentives doon. So A and B, cross out na yan. So you choose between C and D. Motivation is enhanced by the way in which instructional material is organized. Tama. The environment can be used to focus the attention on what students need to be learned. Mas tama. Okay? Kasi na-enhance lang yung letter C. Mas general yung letter D kasi yung environment na yun eh. Yung classroom environment. Okay? Organized, clean, interesting yung mga visuals sa bulletin boards. So makukuha mo yung attention ng student. So, the correct answer is letter D. Which of the following best describes what meaningful learning is? When what is to be learned is new and easy for the student, o meaningful learning ba yun? If materials presented are difficult and challenging to the students, when the materials need to be learned is related to what students already know. And D, students find the lessons easy and relevant to what was assigned to them. O best describes daw. Which of the following best describes meaningful learning? So pag ang question ay nagtanong ng best describe, ibig sabihin, lahat ng option is right. Hanapin mo yung pinaka-best or yung best. Letter C. When the materials to be learned is related to what the students already know. Iba yung sa discussion natin last time. Kailangan mo laging i-relate. Teacher Sarawat noticed that in a group work, students just leave the work to the leader. And so vowed never to give group works again. Against which principle of learning is Teacher Sarawat's decision? O kasi mali siya eh. Hindi mali yung mga bata, ang action pa niya mali.
Ayaw niya nang magbigay ng
Group work kasi yung gawa ng mga bata sa group work, yung
Ibibigay
leader
sa
lang
leader.
ang gumagawa. Si leader lang ang gumagawa. Eh, gano'n naman kasi yung mga bata minsan. Diba? Minsan nga, pinipili nila yung pinakamagaling kasi para makatikim din sila ng mataas na grade. Diba? So, against which principle? May maraming ganyang cases kasi eh. So, kaya sabi ng teacher, ako minsan nagiging ganyan ako, especially in giving assignment. Sa physics kasi ako nagka-class, so halimbawa, okay, solve problem number 1, 2, and 3. So we will we will answer that first hour in the morning. Ganon. First minutes of our class. Parang ganyan. So ang mga estudyante mo, pag nag-submit na ng assignment, naku, pare-pareho ng sagot. Tapos, syempre, if titingnan mo lahat, makikita mo minsan yung mga kumopya kasi may mga isang digit na hindi nila nakokopya, may mga mali-mali yung arrangement ng kanilang solution. So, yun yung mga obvious na nangopya. Kaya minsan, hindi ako nagtitiwala sa mga assignment. Tapos, ang ginawa ko nun na way is, lahat ng assignment, merong parent signature sa baba. Mga galing pa rin ang mga bata. Nagpapapirma na sila sa mga blank paper. Kasi minsan, pag hindi na kasya, naku, sinisingit na. Basta lang hindi matakpan yung signature ng parent doon sa bond paper or so hindi pa rin effective. Tapos yung iba naman, ginagaya na lang yung pirma. Nagpipirmahan na lang, ginagaya yung pirma ng magulang. So hindi pa rin effective. Kaya minsan, hindi na ako nagbibigay ng assignment. Meron pa akong ginawa pala. Sabi ko, okay, alam ko naman nagkokopyahan kayo. So kung sino na yung unang papel na i-check ko, yung pinakaibabaw, siya lang yung tama. Kasi pare-pareho lang kayo ng sagot eh. Ganun naman. Although, kilala ko naman yung mga bata kung sino talaga ang marunong o hindi. Okay? Minsan kasi, kahit di yung mga hindi nakakasagot, nakikinig. Perfect na din. Pero minsan, obvious din talaga na mali-mali yung pagkopya para lang makasubmit ng assignment. So, kahit gawa ka ng paraan. Now, in that case, saang principle of learning ang na-violate, kumbaga? Dito, sa question na to, number 14, since this is group work, obviously, ang answer is letter C. Kasi cooperative and collaborative process ang learning. Mawawalan ng saysay yung cooperation. Madideprive sila sa cooperative learning. So, ano dapat ang gawin ng teacher? Pagsabihan yung mga estudyante. Pagsabihan yung leader. Nabigyan ng task ng each member. Sasabihin mo doon kung sinong in charge sa ganito, sinong in charge sa ganyan. Kasi nga, group work. Okay? So, nung hindi na siya nagpag-group work, the teacher violated the principle, learning should be cooperative. There should be cooperation and collaboration. Which of the following is true about educable mentally retarded children? Ibig sabihin yan, yung matuturuan pa na mentally retarded. Their IQ range between 50 to 70. Di ba pag 50 to 70, nandun na sila sa second to the last before na maging na sila.
Tad na po ba to?
O?
Special education na po ba to?
Oo.
Are we supposed to, like, pag normal nating, in a regular class, dapat ba kasama pa rin sila dun sa normal students?
Oo, kasi meron tayong ngayon meron tayong inclusion na ngayon. Ang new learning natin is inclusion education.
Kahit yung may mga determination.
Dito sa UAE, yes. Yung mga extreme cases lang ang hindi. Yung mga kailangan talaga ng support, yun lang ang inila Otherwise, pwede na silang ipasok sa mainstream school or mainstream classroom. Kaya yan ang dilemma ng mga teachers natin na nagtuturo sa international schools. And even in Philippine schools. Marami din. May mga grabe nga nung nasa isang school ako, kawawa yung KG teacher kasi ilang bata ang nasa nasa silong ng table, nag-iiyak, araw-araw habang nagtuturo siya. Mga ganon, tinatadyak-tadyakan yung table. Minsan nagsasawa din yung teacher, hinahayaan na lang siya doon sila sa silong. Or sa loob ng cabinet, mga ganon. Kasi doon
Ang
sila
gugulo, opo.
hindi, doon sila kasi comfortable minsan. Kasi sabi ko, asan yung ibang estudyante mo? Ayun, kaya mo, nandiyan sila sa silong ng ano.
Silo ng
Oo, pero dito sa UAE, meron tayong ano kasi, SEND, yung special education, yung needs and determination, parang ganon. So, may training din ang mga SEND teacher. Ganyan. May mga LSA, yung Learning Support Assistant. May mga minsan may mga shadow teacher pa, yung mga talagang kailangan ng support. Yung nakatabi lang sa kanya, yung kanyang sariling teacher, dala-dala niya sa classroom, gano'n. That's a shadow teacher. Dito na ngayon, dati kasi dito, nakaseparate sila lahat. Pero ngayon, yung nire-recommend nila na pwede na silang mag-mainstream school, pwede na din. Pero hirap na hirap yung mga teachers na walang training sa SEND or sa students with special needs, mga ganyan. Okay? They have short attention spans and experience difficulty in generalizing. Their reading, writing, and arithmetic skills cannot be improved. A and B above. So, syempre, yung letter C, hindi yan totoo. Hindi na daw may improve yung kailang reading, writing, and arithmetic skills. No, they still can be. Kasi dito naman sabi, educable mentally retarded children. Yung mga teachable, yung mga natuturuan pa. So pag ganyan, na-improve pa din naman yung kailang reading, writing, and arithmetic. Kahit, let's say, 12 years old na siya, pero ang level niya ay pang 6 years old, 8 years old, at least natututo pa din siya. Ano lang siya, delayed lang yung kanyang capacity, kumbaga. So, the correct answer here is letter D. A and B above. Mentally retarded na kasi so 50 to 70 between moron and imbecile. Parang ganon. Natututo pa rin naman sila. Kaya lang, short attention sila, span. Next, number 16. Student with secondary reading problems have capacity to read, but are non-readers because of A, auditory problems, congenital defects, visual acuity impairment, environmental or emotional factors. So, syempre, pinaka-general ang environmental or emotional factors. Kasi reading problem lang naman yan. Wala namang kinalaman yung, meron, pero is special case, yung mga auditory problem, para maging non-reader yung bata. So, ibig sabihin, mas marami pang factors sa environment or sa emotional. Or that should be emotional factors. Number 17. Which of the following is characteristic of a dyslexic child? O yung may dyslexia.
Parang si Regine.
Meron tayong last 2019, merong isang teacher na nag-board exam. Pero hindi naman siya dyslexic nung bata daw siya, pero okay naman na siya. Naging teacher pa nga siya. Kaya sabi ko, paano ka kaya? Kasi alam mo, nung una pa lang, let's have muna the choices. Mirror writing, listlessness, ito yung walang gana, below average intelligence, hindi naman sila below average. Hyperactivity, hindi naman sila hyperactive. So it's either A or B. Pero ang main Characteristic ng dyslexic ay yung mirror writing. Binabaliktad nila yung letter. Diba? Kasi ba ang dyslexia kasi is a disorder characterized by, let's say, problems with visual notation of speech, what else, alphabet writing system, sa phonetics, mga ganyan ang dyslexia. Difficulty in learning to read, write, spell, or do arithmetic. So, pero normal din sa mga maliit na bata yung ganun. Let's say yung letter B, nagiging D. So, parang mirror. Sa mirror lang sila. Binabaliktad nila yung mga letters. So, yung teacher na kinukwento ko na nag-board exam, ano siya, Agricultural and Fishery Arts major. Kasi nung una, tingnan ko siya, nagsusulat, pabaliktad. Alam mo yung literal na pabaliktad. Nakabaliktad yung
Letters.
yeah, even yung notebook niya baliktad. Yung halimbawa itong mirror writing, baliktad siya pa horizontal, vertical na baliktad, kumbaga. Alam mo yung vertical na baliktad. Baliktad talaga as in, sabi ko, so paano ka pumasa ng pagiging teacher? Paano ka magsusulat sa board? Baliktad yung ano niya. Tama naman yung sinusulat niya, kailangan pabaliktad. Kumbaga, kailangan niyang ibaliktad yung sarili niya para masulat niya yung nasa board. Sabi niya, sir, nasanay na lang ako hanggang kasi hindi ko, pinipilit kong baguhin pero hindi na talaga. Kaya sabi ko, paano ka kaya pala bumagsak ka sa sa AFA kasi baka pag nag-opera ka ng baboy or yung mga, kasi siya agricultural arts.
Baliktad yun.
Baka pabaliktad yung pagkapon mo ng baboy. Tawa kami ng tawa. Kasi sabi niya, hindi naman sir. Ewan ko lang, pero kayang-kaya ko naman, sabi niya. Kaya na nag-failed siya noong 2019. Kaya na mag-repeat siya ulit. Mag-board exam. Mataas naman ang average niya, nasa 71 naman. So sabi ko, naku, kakaiba ka, sabi ko sa kanya. Kasi nagsusulat siya, pag pumipirma siya, baliktad talaga. Hindi naman baliktad, pero kailangan baliktarin niya yung sarili niya.
Para
So,
masulat.
Oo, yung ano ko ba ma-explain?
Mirror writing.
Mirror writing siya pero vertical. Ito kasi ang mirror writing, itong mirror magiging yung M niya basta pag tinignan mo sa mirror, baliktad siya. 'Di ba? Siya hindi yung baliktad talaga na pag ito ang tama, alam ba itong presentation na to sa PowerPoint, kailangan mo siyang 360 degrees. Ay, hindi. Baliktarin mo lang siya, parang ganon. Ganon siya magsulat.
Yes.
So, yung kamay niya, binabaliktad na lang niya na ganon para magsusulat siya. Sabi ko, kawawa ka naman. Sabi ko, hindi sir. Parang normal na sa akin ito, sabi naman. So, sabi ko, dyslexic ka ba? Sabi niya, nung bata ako, pero wala naman, sabi. So, yun yung sa dyslexia. Mirror writing. Under which of the following conditions is a child's IQ more likely to increase? Nag-increase ba ang IQ? Yes. A and C. If the emotional climate in the classroom improves. If the child is given a large research project, a child yan, bibigyan mo ng malaking research project, hindi niya magagawa. Hindi yun makakatulong sa pag-increase ng IQ niya. If the child enjoys problem solving and is given ample opportunity for it, yes. Kaya, if A and C are true, then that's a condition na mag-increase ang IQ ng bata. Okay, read the following, then answer the next 3 or 4 questions that follow. When you ask to do a learning task, Joe hesitates and say, mahirap, ayoko, di ko kaya. Or, it's difficult, I don't like it, I can't do it. So ano ang meron siya? Meron siyang low sense of self-efficacy. Ano nga ba ulit ang self-efficacy sa ating motivation? This is a person's belief in their ability to succeed in a particular situation. So minsan, kung kulang ka dyan, hindi ka maniniwalang kaya mo, mag-give up na kaagad. Dito naman kasi, ang self-efficiency, parang wala naman kasi ang word na self-efficiency. Efficiency. Because when you say efficacy versus efficiency, ang efficacy is, let's say, getting things done. Ang efficiency naman is doing things in most convenient way, economical way, gano'n. So parang yung performance mo doon, yun ang efficiency. Has high sense of self-efficiency, wants to be sure, ganyan. So pag ganun, meron ng low sense of efficacy ang bata. Yung kaagad-agad, nagninega siya kaagad na hindi pa niya susubukan, isasabihin niya, naku, mahirap yan. Nakita ko na yan sa mahirap din niya kinaya, ako pa kaya. Mga ganun. Those kind of learners may self-efficacy. Kasi minsan when you tap students like, anak, I know you can do it. Kailangan mong i-represent ang class natin to join this one, this one, this one. Mag-refuse ka agad. Kasi wala siyang confidence din. So, that is an attitude showing low sense of self-efficacy. To which factor can you contribute his perceived inability to perform the task? O bakit kaya siya nag-refuse ka agad? One, within him, maybe, outside his control, which is stable, or he just wants to be free. So 1 and 4. Pag ganun kasi, sa sarili niya yun. Kasi nga,
Within
self-efficacy.
him.
And 4, he just wants to be free. Ayaw lang niya. Yung outside his control, di naman totoo yun. Kasi hindi pa nga yung susubukan. Di ba? Mag-refuse na kaagad. Is it possible to motivate this type of student? Yes, he can
Yes.
do something with his ability. Kailangan mong i-boost ang kanilang confidence. Kasi syempre, binigyan mo siya ng chance, binigyan mo siya ng role, di ba? To which problem does the case of the student allude? Unmotivated students, uncaring teacher, extremely difficult learning, or incompetent teachers? Kasalanan ulit ng teacher. So, 1 and 3. Siyempre yung bata, unmotivated siya. At saka, minsan, kung very extremely difficult naman yung learning, nag-refuse siya. Pero wag namang i-ano sa teacher na uncaring yung teacher, incompetent yung teacher. Hindi naman ganun. So kung unmotivated yung students, malamang kasama si teacher doon, pero most probably unmotivated siya sa other factors. Pero pag teacher ka naman, hindi naman eh. Yan naman ang role natin sa classroom is just to motivate our learners to strive more and more. Kasi babalik at babalik sa atin yan. Pag bumagsak ang bata, sasabihin sa'yo, what have you done as a teacher? Kaya nga nandyan ka as a teacher. Diba? So, 1 and 3. What do the school campus expressions from the and bariotic indicate? O minsan kasi nakaka-apekto rin sa learning yan. The powerlessness of the poor, low literacy rate of the country, the power of the rich, the prevalence of ethnocentrism. Pag sinabing from the, bariotic, ibig sabihin ba low literacy rate na ang country? Di ba from the, yung mga from provinces, yun ba yun?
Yes,
From.
opo.
Pag
Probinsyano.
bariotic naman, taga-baryo. So pag narinig mo yan sa campus, anong ibig sabihin? So,
Powerlessness.
hindi naman poor.
Literacy.
Letter D. May
Prevalence of
ethnocentrism.
ethnocentrism.
Diba ang ethnocentrism is yung you are evaluating, nire-regard mo kaagad yung others' culture according to your, let's say, yung preconception mo, yung according to sa standard mo, sa customs ng isang culture. Parang ganun. Inaano mo kaagad na yung grupo na yan, galing mga yan talaga, mga from D. So, ang minimin doon, if you are in the school campus, is ethnocentrism na siya. Ini-evaluate sila based on their culture. Based on their culture as based on your standard, yung self-standard mo, or yung self-custom and traditions nyo. Kumbaga, kino-compare. Diba? So, the prevalence of ethnocentrism. Next. A child's social skill can be measured by direct observation and parent-teacher conferences. Psychological test. Adaptive behavior skills. And D, A and C above. O paano mo daw ma-measure ang social skills ng bata? Social, yung pakikihalubilo.
ANC.
Okay. Direct observation, correct. By merely observing the child or learner. What else? During parent-teacher conference. Kasi minsan, pag parent-teacher conference, kailangan mo rin makakuha ng information sa nanay. Diba? Na, ma'am, ano po ba si ganito sa bahay? Kasi dito sa school, napakagulo, napakakulit niya, takbo ng takbo. Tapos sabi ng parent naman, naku, hindi naman sila, napakatahimik nga niya mga ganun naman. Pag ganong case kasi, may mga denial din ang mga parent minsan. Ayaw umamin. Pero, the usual thing is, syempre, totoo naman na tahimik yung bata, magulo sa classroom kasi ginagawa niyang outlet yung school. Kasi baka sobrang deprived naman siya sa bahay. Diba? Baka konting galaw lang niya sa bahay, masisigawan ka agad. Kaya pagdating sa school, parang siya, born free. 'Di ba? May mga ganong cases. Letter B, psychological test. Hindi naman nagme-measure ng social skills ang psychological kasi ang psychological test this is more on the cognitive. Meron ding part doon ang behavior pero more on emotional functioning of children and adults 'yon. Cognitive and emotional functioning, yung psychological test. Yung adaptive behavior skills, meron yung ginagamit yung sa semi-structured interview na ginagamit sa guidance, mga ganyan. Yung Vineland Adaptive Behavior Skills. So, pwede ang A and C. So, the answer is letter B. Next. During the learning process, the teacher has most control over A, the learners, learning environment, learning process, the behavior of the learners. Letter B. Kasi hindi lang yung learner ang kinokontrol mo, yung buong learning environment. Sarili mo din, kinokontrol mo din. Di ba? The learner, the learning environment, and the teacher. So yun yung buong learning environment. Which of the following conditions does not contribute to a climate psychologically suited to learning? Letter B. The teacher acts like a real person. Correct. Yung C naman, the teacher accepts students as they are. Correct. Letter D, the teacher shows trust in students' decisions. But not letter B, the teacher makes all the decisions about students' learning activities. Hindi yun. Yung everyday na lang authoritarian, ang tawag doon, ikaw na lang ang susunod lagi. Hindi naman. Nag-stop na siya. Can you check if nagpa-function yung PowerPoint?
Number 26 po.
Hindi, pinipindot ko na siya eh. Ayaw niyang